We're talking Ball State football. The Cardinals come off a 3-9 season, bring in a new head coach, a new offense, a new defense. What's on tap for the Cardinals? Find out all that out and more here on the Max Sports Connection podcast.
What's up, guys? It's three-time NFL Pro Bowler, all-decade return specialist, Josh Cribbs. I want to welcome you to the Max Sports Connection podcast, where Alex hosts all things Mac, all things football, all things sports, right here, Max Sports Connection, baby. The Mid-American Conference best, bringing it only the greats, Mac, to everyone.
Graham, welcome back to another edition of the Max Sports Connection podcast, part of the Varsity Podcast Network, presented by Learfield. It's our second MAC football preview, and this week we're talking the Ball State Cardinals. Graham, we're 1 week closer. You got to be excited to talk about some Cardinals, right?
Well, we got to love talking about the Cardinals. You know how much I love the bird teams. It's funny, I say that, and it's a way bigger deal in like the MLB baseball when you talk about bird teams. We got a lot of bird teams in the MAC, and I'll think you find these guys are not the top bird. I don't know. I tried to make something with top dog there. I'm not sure it really landed, but the point is, I'm not sure Ball State's gonna be flying high after the season. But as we get into it, we'll get to talk about where we think these Cardinals are going to end up.
No, that's fair. Obviously, Ball State, a program well known around the MAC. They've got 6 MAC titles. Most recently, the 2020 season where they went 7-1, finished ranked in the top 25 with their bowl win in the Arizona Bowl. This program, though, they've been struggling as of late. You know, they've only had one winning season since that 2020 season, and really, it's a lot of 3-9. 4-8. They got rid of Mike New, somebody I really, really enjoyed as a person. It's kind of that tale, right, in the MAC, where you see a lot of guys come back, they coach their alma mater, not really finding the success that they had as a player. You know, we saw it with Tim Lester, Western Michigan. He got the boot after being a former player of the year, couldn't replicate the PJ Fleck success. Mike New, the quarterback hero of the 90s, couldn't get it done as a coach outside of the COVID year. But we got a new coach here in Ball State in Muncie, under Mike Uremovich, coming up from Butler. And I think this is an interesting hire. I feel like if you're Ball State, everyone has talked about the splashy hire at Bowling Green with Eddie George. I think Ball State, you made a safe, well thought out hire with Uremovich.
Yeah, I mean, Uremovich took a Butler team to kind of new heights. As you were, it's hard to describe a team in the Pioneer League as achieving any heights, but took Butler to new heights there. Had them ranked as high as 35th in S&P Plus in the FCS, and really did a great job with the Butler Bulldogs. So it'll be interesting to see what Uremovich does with Ball State here. Interesting that we're talking about the old coach is new and the new coach is Uremovich. I was hoping his last name would be old, but turns out we don't get what we wish for all the time. Hopefully Ball State gets what they wish for in a new coach, though. Guy who's known for his offensive prowess. We'll see how Ball State kind of adjusts to this new era.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. Ball State here in the offseason, as you expect in the transfer portal era, kind of you expect guys to hit the portal to test the waters, to see what opportunities are elsewhere because of the success they had. Well, it feels like Ball State lost almost 20 transfer to the portal, and kind of in spite of because of a regime change. There were a lot of guys at the end of the 2023 season who, there was talk about Mike New being let go then, and a lot of guys were kind of pleaded to Jeff Mitchell and said, no, like we're behind, like this is our coach, like please don't get rid of our coach. And so they held on to him for another year, and another lackluster season for the Cardinals ultimately led to that termination. but they did get 10 transfers in, but 17 out on top of the graduating class. Like this was a big roster turnover for Uremovich to kind of deal with here in the offseason.
Yeah, Ball State returning the least amount of production in the conference. Only 29% of their production returning, 22% on offense, 37% on defense. When we talk about these positional groups a little bit later, we'll talk about some of the defensive groups. Kind of had to have a solid base. They've had guys around for a while. A little bit more consistency there, but even still, 37% returning production. Not great. In terms of returning production there, and bottom of the MAC, both in terms of returning production percentage as well as returning starts. So these are guys on the team who have had starts in college football. Ball State second to last in starts returning. So tough situation to be in as a first-year head coach. I think maybe we can spin the positive in that. Uremovich gets to start fresh. There's no here who is really that concretely set back in the Mike New era, and so it'll be interesting to see where we end up this year. I think that's the key word here when we talk about the theme of this Ball State season. It's going to come down to change. It's going to come down to how do they adapt to that change? How do they handle the new head coach? How do they handle a new offense and a new defense and pretty much all new players? It's going to be interesting to see the way the Cardinals respond. You noted, we've had a couple of really mediocre seasons or worse than mediocre if you are a Ball State Cardinal fan. And so talking about that, Alex, where do we expect this team to go from here? I don't know that anything jumps out to me anyway as a big sign of positive things to come this season.
Well, I think when you look at the positives, there is a lot of talent on this Ball State team. Guys who, whether it be injuries, whether it be because of inexperience, youth, whatever it is, there is still plenty of talent on this team. This offense really wasn't that bad. They were ranked 7th in the MAC out of 12, so they were middle of the road in the Mid-American Conference. They averaged 25.3 points per game, but it was the defense, and I think defense is going to be the issue again this year. The defense was surrendering 40 points a game. Now, of course, you have games against Power 5 opponents that can kind of skew that a little bit. But I think you've got to focus on the offense. And for me, it's going to come down to Kyle Kelly, who it has been all over the field. I was looking at some of the stuff and some of the plays they ran with him last year. I think Mike realized he had a special athlete, but it was really hard to put him in on offense and not have the defense key on him, right? You knew, okay, he's lining up at wide receiver. It's probably a jet sweep. Okay, he's lining up at running back. It's probably going to be a handoff or it's going to be a direct snap. Like there was going to be something where he was directly involved in the play. And then when he was on the defensive side, same kind of thing. Like you knew you had a special athlete, but you didn't disguise him well enough. But I think, right now you look at what this quarterback room looks like. And I think for me, the storyline is Kyle Kelly going to start, or are we going to get Walter Taylor, the transfer from Colorado and Vanderbilt with Power 4 program experience? You transfer from Colorado, so you learned a little bit under Dion. You were at Vanderbilt, so you got a little bit of SEC experience. How does that translate to the Mid-American Conference? For me, I think this is something that you got to look at as a big storyline here in the offseason.
Well, what's interesting is you're talking about Kyle Kelly and his time at defensive back as well as at wide receiver, to complement the time at quarterback. And yeah, he lined up all over the field on offense and not as much on defense in terms of all over the defense, but certainly a super versatile player. And then we talk about Walter Taylor, a guy coming from Colorado / Vanderbilt, and a guy whose usage so far in college, not much, not a lot of stats to go with, but whose usage in college so far has been way more of a runner than as a passer. And so we're talking about a guy who's certainly a dual threat, Kyle Kelly being a 4 or 5 threat. And this is just a quarterback room that's full of threats. I think my main word for Ball State this year is change. That's what we're going to notice about Ball State, I think. But word number 2 is versatility. As we go through this list of players, you're going to notice a lot of guys have a lot of different skill sets. It's like Jurevich has Swiss Army knives all over the field, and it'll be interesting to see what you can draw up with that. It's hard to do that in your first year as a coach. So I think we all see the potential for a really interesting offense, and it'll be even more interesting for me to see whether Jurevich gets that offense installed in time, that we get to see some of the things we're imagining. Whether that's multiple quarterbacks on the field at the same time, whether that's running backs lined up in all kinds of crazy positions, or wide receivers, as the case may be. Couple of talented tight ends we're going to talk about. I'm doing a lot of foreshadowing without really diving in. But when we talk about versatility, it starts with these 2 quarterbacks. And I think you're right. It seems to me Kyle Kelly gets the start, and that makes sense to me, is that he's the starter, at least to begin the season. But I would be very surprised if Walter Taylor didn't find some time in the game for the Cardinals, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up the starter by the end of the season.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good assessment, and I think again, you find a way to disguise these guys. There are so many options as to what you can do with them. As long as you keep people guessing, that gives you such an upper hand, especially with Kyle Kelly. Like, if you have them both lined up and neither of them are under center, who are you defending, right? You give yourself so many more options when you can disguise what they do, or don't let them have a hand in the play at all. That takes defenders away from the ball, and that's such a key thing in college football. Kind of talking about these Swiss Army knives, this whole offense is going to be a Swiss Army knife, and I think it's going to be Qua Ashley, the running back transfer from Kennesaw State. I don't know if you got a chance to look at some of the stuff that he did. He was all Conference USA kick returner and an honorable mention at running back for Conference USA. And when he was doing kick returns, his average of 29.4 would have ranked in the third highest in FBS had Kennesaw State been allowed to have guys appear in those rankings, given that they were being in that reclassification kind of period. But he had kickoff returns against UTEP, who, not a bad program, kickoff return against Jacksonville State, who reclassified and has done a great job. And he was named an All-American National Kick Returner of the Year by the College Football Network. So this is a guy who has a lot of skills as a running back, but also as a kick returner. And I think, again, Swiss Army knives, you're going to get a lot of options with what you can do with Qua Ashley.
Yeah, we know for a team who's had consecutive 3-9 seasons, any little bolt of lightning that they can capture is great. And the return game is certainly a place where your team can get a boost right away. I mean, one of the more electric plays in football, and an opportunity to really turn the game around if you have a great guy back there. And it looks like Ball State will this year have a great return man. Special teams was an area last year where Ball State really struggled. So it'll be interesting to see what the special teams look like this year, especially from that kick return perspective.
And I think, you look at the kick return perspective, you've also got another guy, Elijah Jackson, coming in from Purdue. Again, more Power 4 experience. And this guy's fast. A 10.47 time in the 100-meter dash. So you're getting a little bit of speed in that backfield too. And I think that's going to be massive. He walked on at Purdue. and was their top kick returner a year ago, averaging over 18 yards, over 8 returns. Had a couple carries as a redshirt freshman. Like, this is a guy who, again, doesn't have a lot of collegiate experience, but he worked in an FBS Power 4 kind of program, got to learn, got to kind of build his skill set a little bit. And I think there's great potential for him to be an important and key cog in this offense of again, Swiss Army knives. I think we're just going to use that phrase the rest of the way here, Graham.
Yeah, these are guys, this running back room, guys with not a ton of running back experience, at least at the collegiate level. But all of them blazing fast. And so anytime you have a bunch of running backs who are super speedy, great things can happen, especially in the MAC. I think we talked about how these guys, both of them, Jackson and Ashley, both return specialists. Ashley also catching passes last year, doing a pretty good job at Kennesaw State, catching passes. So certainly a really versatile backfield, and everybody can run back there. We got a couple of quarterbacks who can run. We got a couple of running backs who can run. It'll be interesting to see how opposing defenses handle that sort of versatility from the Ball State backfield. What's interesting to me, and I think we're kind of naturally building to the wide receiver position, but I'm going to take kind of a swerve here and talk about the offensive line, because that to me is what determines whether these runners, whether they're the quarterbacks or the running backs, that's what determines to me whether these runners are going to have good seasons, because all 4 of the guys we've talked about, supremely talented, all 4 of them very fast. And so what determines whether these guys have great seasons is the big guys up front. So when we're talking about offensive line here, I think it's a big question mark. Got some incredible size for Ball State here. But we're talking about Adam Dolan, transfer from Butler, 6'8", who no stats yet, no experience at the collegiate level. Also talking about Chris Hood, who is 6'10", but also we don't have any stats for him. So big, huge guys on the line. 10 players over 300 pounds. You've got written down for us here. That's the I don't know that you can play 10 players, Alex, but
you can't. Well, you can. You get one more guy on the offensive side. You could have a couple of them be bulldozing fullbacks if you needed to.
But I think that's the thing, is we all see the potential in this offensive line, but not a ton of experience there. Right. It seems like that's the resounding refrain here, is that just like with our first year head coach, Mike Yurimovich, not a lot of guys with experience at Ball State, and certainly even less with experience in collegiate football. This could be a hell of a team. We just don't know.
Well, and I think, FCS is a different level than FBS, right? I think you're getting opponents that, now you're not playing, the schools that Butler would play. You're not playing Valparaiso. You're going to be playing Toledo. You're going to be playing Auburn. You're playing Purdue this year. And not to say that Butler didn't have a chance at playing those schools. You just didn't get all of them in the same season. This, for me, the size of this offensive line is going to be such a key factor to how good this offense works. Just kind of going off your point with the guys as big as they are, we've got 3 players over 6'4", 10 guys over 300 pounds. This is going to be an offense that's just going to absolute offensive line that, if built right, and I believe Yurimovich has the ability to build an offensive line the right way. He did it at Butler. You're going to give Kyle Kelly plenty of time in the backfield to look for a guy downfield or to scramble if he needs to. This is an offensive line that you just give him a little bit of time. We talk about Daquan Finn. from yesteryear at Toledo. Give him a little bit of time, and he can perform some magic. I feel like, we could kind of see that if this offensive line gels. But again, it's all about getting that experience, building these guys into a position where it's like, hey, we have an opportunity to really create something here. Let's do this and go win some football games.
And I think your thought there is correct about we think, and again, this is all speculation at this point.
Yeah.
But we think these guys are going to be pretty good in pass protection. It's interesting to wonder, does that size translate to run blocking? Do these guys have the mobility to get out ahead of running blocks, to knock some guys off the ball and give some room for the running backs? And that remains to be seen. I think that as much as we want to look at the quarterback position as the key to an offense, and in large part that's how it goes, especially in the Mid-American Conference. The offensive line this year is going to be the key to the Ball State offense. So many talented runners on this offense. And if they can get some run blocking, I think Ball State might be sneaky one of the top offenses in the conference. But everything depends on that offensive line.
That's going to be the key part. But the other part of that, it comes down to the quarterback. It comes down to the offensive line. But you got to have a guy catching the ball. And Ball State's got several of them. And I think Ball State kind of wins on this front. You get Ty Robinson back, Ty Robinson, who's dealt with injuries his career at Ball State, which sucks. But in the times he's played, he's made his mark. He's got a couple touchdowns over 5 games in his time at Ball State. He's got a $180 receiving yards. He's got some speed too. This is not a guy who I think Ball State was hurting to kind of be missing, but I think that they're going to be really glad to have him back. But the other one, Keon Magwood, and he's going to be wrapping up a season or his career here at Ball State. He's a redshirt senior, and right now he's currently a preseason 4th team All-MAC by Athlon Sports and an honorable mention by College Football Network. Another guy who this was the top target a year ago, not much in terms of yardage, but he had 4 touchdowns over 11 games on 23 catches. This is the guy that you're going to have to rely on downfield between him and Robinson. I think these are your 2 big guys, but this wide receiver room is stacked. You've got Elisha Durham coming up. He's a freshman, a lot of excitement around him. Then you've got Eric Weatherby. He transferred from Bucknell. And then a bunch of other wide receiver transfers. So this is going to be possibly a rotating wide receiver room. And I think that's exciting if you're Ball State.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it for every position group. The same thing is true of the wide receivers. Mostly unproven. Even the guys who have had stats haven't had big stats yet. Nobody's been the primary target really, in terms of production. So it's tough to talk about, who is going to be the guy in the wide receiver room. I think we just don't know. You talked about they had a ton of wide receiver transfers come in, so many that we're not even mentioning them all. And good thing, bad thing, who knows? Never a bad thing to have a bunch of guys to check out, but you'd like to see some sort of stability form between quarterback and wide receiver. And if you're rotating a ton of guys in there, it's hard to develop those relationships. So I don't know. I don't know for this wide receiver room. The running back room feels like a strength to me on this Ball State offense. I'm less sure that wide receiver is a strength.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I like the wide receivers as a strength because you've got guys who are familiar with the quarterback, guys who are familiar with some of the players already on the team. And you can kind of rely on them. Keon Magwood, of course, Ty Robinson, your 2 big guys who are the veterans in that wide receiver room who have a connection with Kyle Kelly. But who knows? Maybe they take a step back and these young guys jump up. You just don't know. But I think I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention the massive loss of Tanner Koziel, the tight end, who was the guy last year for Ball State. He transferred to Wisconsin, stayed there for like 15 seconds, and then transferred to Houston. And will be playing down there in the Big 12 down in Texas. But, he had 840 yards last year, a bunch of touchdowns. And I think you've got to look at Drew Cassins to kind of fill the role of Tanner Koziel at tight end. He follows Uremovich from Butler, but he does have experience in the Mid-American Conference. In fact, he played at Northern Illinois for 3 years. He's using his final year of eligibility to play with his coach from Butler. And I think you're going to see a lot of targets come his way. This is going to be an offense that, yes, you're going to have to gel as best you can, and it's going to depend on what the offensive line does. I expect to see a lot of dink and dunk to Cassins, to the tight ends, just until the offense can kind of figure out what they're going to do. I think that the tight ends are going to be utilized heavily.
And question mark if the offense figures it out, because we see that a ton with first-year head coaches where the offense never really comes together in that first year. And I don't think that's an indictment of Urenovich. It's just a fact that sometimes you come in, you have so many moving pieces that they never really seem to click into place. I think that would be disappointing for me. That's when I look at this offense, what I want to see is some of these electric playmakers in the backfield, specifically the running backs, but the quarterbacks as well. I want to see some big plays from these guys. And if the offense doesn't quite click, I don't know that we're going to see those big plays that we want to see, those exciting sort of midweek action kind of plays when it's the game gets windy and sloppy and snowy, and we get to put the ball in the hands of just an electric running back to warm us up a little bit. I'm worried we're not going to see that if the offense doesn't come together, specifically that offensive line.
No, I think that's spot on. Again, it's gonna revolve around the offensive line. These guys can get gelled quickly, and we've seen it happen. We've seen brand new offensive lines in the Mid-American Conference look like they've been playing for 15 years. We've seen brand new offensive line look like they've never seen a football day in their life. So this Ball State offense will live and die by what this offensive line does. I'm right there with you, Graham.
So let's talk about the other side of the ball. I think I don't know that we're going to come away with a better prediction. Our prediction on offense being very much a question mark. Our prediction on defense, I suspect, will be much of the same. Starting on the defensive line, they didn't lose a ton. We didn't lose a ton on the defensive line. Now, unfortunately, defensive line was not a particular strength for Ball State last year. So not losing a ton doesn't mean that the defensive line is in good shape necessarily. Darren Conley is a redshirt freshman. He had 2 sacks and 16 tackles last year, leading the pass rush for Ball State. He should be in that same position again. Look for him to get to the quarterback. A couple of transfers with Nathan Voorhees coming in from UConn. Hard to tell what that is. Certainly a guy with some experience. He's been around a while as a redshirt senior. But UConn, not a program necessarily known for its talent. And so hard to tell what this defensive line is gonna be. Honestly, I think there's a little bit of stability here, which is nice, especially under a first year head coach. But I don't see a ton of excitement on the defensive line.
Well, the defensive line was, to be very honest, it was a pretty anemic kind of thing here for Ball State. They actually sat 9th in the Mid-American Conference in rushing defense last year. They gave up 175 yards a contest. So they're going to rely, obviously, on Conley, on Voorhees, but then they're going to rely on some of these transfers too. This is one of those where I don't know where you improve or how you improve, but you got to find a way to improve. You can't be giving up almost 200 yards a game on the ground and expect to win a bunch of ball games. But I do think that with a new offensive and defensive scheme coming into play, Uremovich, he's got something up his sleeve, and I expect to see the defense, at least on the defensive line, take a step forward. You got guys with experience now. You've got guys who are a little bit older. You're learning a new scheme, but there's a little bit more collegiate experience. And UConn, for all intents and purposes, I think are a group of 5, group of 6 program. But I mean, they don't have necessarily a bunch of talent, but they've put up quite a few points and defensive stops against some pretty well-known opponents. So, to give them a little bit of credit, the Voorhees coming in could be a boost for the Ball State Cardinals.
Yeah, and we'll see. You talked about the run game, or the run defense being a weakness for Ball State last year. And a lot of that comes down to the defensive line, but a lot of that comes down to the linebackers here. This is another unit, not a ton of change here. That's not losing a lot. We've got a few returners in the linebackers, specifically Joey Stemler, who's a redshirt senior. He played 11 games last year. A ton of experience there. The other thing we didn't mention, but defensive coordinator Jeff Knowles coming back this year, has experience with Uremovich. He was in 2023. He was the defensive coordinator at Butler with Uremovich. So they have experience together. He was with Ball State last year as the defensive coordinator. He remains. So a little bit, additional stability on defense. There is that question mark. Is that good? Does this defense need to be shaken up? Who knows? But linebacker, pretty stable. You're talking about Caden Johnson is a potential breakout player in this linebacker core. 5 linebacker transfers. So again, it's a position where we have some stability. We have some new guys. Question mark. I feel like I've worn that key out of my keyboard, Alex.
Well, let's wear it out, Graham. Wear it all out. The reason that I'm kind of high on Caden Johnson is he's played in all 24 games of his college career. Last year was a bigger one for him. He had 22 total tackles. He had 1 tackle for a loss and 1 sack for a loss. He does have a forced fumble last year. So I think this is a year for him to really take a step forward. There is a little bit of depth concern, but like guys like Jackson Weagold, who he played in 12 games last year, no starts. He had 4 total assisted tackles. He was credited, I think, to have a tackle for a loss against Indiana State. So this would be an opportunity for him to kind of step up and make a name for himself this year. Just a lot of linebacking pieces that can play, but at what level? How high of a level can they play? So I think, again, no major losses, but who knows just how strong they can be this year. This is, again, as you said, a massive question mark. And I think it's probably the question mark that's the biggest on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, agreed. What we're going to talk about next is the secondary here. And the secondary had a big shakeup as compared to these other positions. This is where, we talked about defensive line and linebackers be relatively stable positions. The secondary is a huge shakeup. Almost nobody returning there. And so it's an interesting point to talk about is which of these position groups are we most excited about? I think we're most excited about the secondary, despite the fact that we don't have, I don't know, we have any returners here. But when we're talking about guys here who are our key cornerbacks, we have Russell Peterson, who is a freshman. We have no idea. We don't know about him. We don't really know where he's at. We're talking about Avery Stewart is at safety, a transfer in from Kentucky. And again, the big thing there is that he was at a Power 5, Power 4 program, but didn't get a lot of playing time at that Power 4 program. So another question, we brought in all new guys in the secondary. It's gonna be up in the air. That's not a pun on pass defense, but it is gonna be up in the air about how these guys play. But brought in a ton of talent in the offseason. So I think that's why we're so excited here is no known quantities in the secondary, but a ton of talent there. I think we're all a little bit cautiously optimistic that this might be a strength of the Cardinals defense.
Well, and when you look at the schools that some of these guys transferred in from, I've got the entire Ball State roster right here. You've got Jodrick Lewis coming in from Southeast Missouri State, and he had a heck of a career down there. Just kind of doing what he could. He had 9 starts as a free safety in 2023, was 7th on the team in total tackles, ranked 2nd on the team with 28 solo tackles. He led the team with 3 interceptions that year. Last year, had some injuries. But I'm a little bit excited about him, what he can bring. Michael Gravely coming in from Western Michigan. Jamon Harmon, he's been with Ball State now a couple years, but he came in from Kent State. Coastal Carolina, you've got Hampton Southeastern, Vanderbilt, Bryant, Butler. Just guys from these different programs. Old Dominion, Kentucky, like we mentioned. A lot of talent coming in, and some big guys too. Some guys who are 6 foot, 6'2", 6'1", a bunch of 5'11", another 6'1". This is a tall defensive backfield. It's just what can they do with the opportunity that they're getting to kind of reshape this Ball State defensive backfield. So who knows?
Yeah, I think that's where we're ended up. Defense in general is kind of a who knows. Special teams even more so. Honestly, that's the don't really know what the special teams is going to look like. We mentioned it was not a particular strength for Ball State last year. We've got some guys who have experience in the return game transferring in. We talked about at the running back position. Those guys are both returners. So big opportunities there for an excellent return game. But I think the question here is, can Ryan Matvico from Hawaii come in and shape up this special teams unit? And
gotta
I don't
replace
know.
Malcolm Gilly. Like that's going to be the big piece right there.
Right, and we're talking about in the return game, Malcolm Gilly was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But then I feel pretty solid that one of these guys, one of these transfers, is going to be able to handle the return game. Not sure about the kicking. That's the
yeah.
So for me, if you needed my grade on all 3 units here, all 3 question marks. I have no idea. That's the I really don't know how these how this Ball State team is going to shape up this year.
It's we'll see. It's and one of the things that I really like is that having a great conversation with Mick Tidrow kind of just throughout this offseason about kind of what to expect. And I know there's a lot of excitement around what Ball State's bringing to the table. So make sure while we're on the topic of Mick Tidrow and Ball State, make sure you guys download the Varsity app. He is running the Ball State Talk podcast, and that's hosted on the Varsity app by Lairfield. You can download that today for free. It's available on Apple and on the Google Play Store. You guys make sure you download that, sign in, save your favorite schools, favorite podcast, favorite sports. You can listen to all the games, events, podcasts, fans, whatever that bring your schools and conferences to life. Many voices throughout NCAA Division I and even down to some Division II are available for you to listen to. So you can listen to those live calls. And then, like I said, the podcast, you can listen to us. You can listen to the Sickos Committee. You can listen to the Group of Five guys. All these podcasts who bring you the best of college athletics, you can listen to for free on the Varsity app. So make sure you guys download that today and save the podcast and voices that bring your schools to life. Graham, we might have some life for Ball State here when it comes to this conference schedule, but I'm not confident they have much life or much opportunity in this non-conference schedule.
Yeah, starting off the season at Purdue, tough place to start. Um, it's it's an in-state rivalry, if you can call it that. But tough place to start. I think we're in agreement that that's probably a loss for the Cardinals there to start this season.
Oh, I had them going 1-0. What are you talking about? No, this is
Okay.
definitely a loss for Ball State on the road. West Lafayette, if you haven't been to Ross-Ade Stadium, kind of a cool facility. I look at it as a bigger glass bowl when it comes to what Purdue has. Neat little stadium, but this is definitely a loss for Ball State.
Yeah, plus they got that big drum. I'm sure the following week will be much easier for the Cardinals, right? Oh no, wrong. We're traveling down to Auburn. Even more challenging. Tough way to start the year. 0-2. That's I don't know. We need to talk more about that. That's
nope. 0-2.
That's tough.
Good start to the year. But you come back, you do the home opener in Muncie, September 13th against New Hampshire. I like Ball State in this one. It's the FCS game. It's the almost gimme win.
Yeah.
And I like Ball State to win this one.
Now, New Hampshire has been known to be sneaky, to be kind of a trap game, especially for our beloved MAC teams. I also have Ball State winning this one. But let's not take these guys too easy. This could easily become a trap game. But I think the Cardinals are hungry after those first two losses. They want to win one at home. And I think this one's a win.
You want to get your fans excited. Your fans expect you're going to lose those first two, but your fans expect you to win that first one at home.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think this could set the tone for the season. Following week at UConn, I think you have this one listed as a 50-50 game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that feels right. I'm just going to go into it here. I think this is a loss for Ball State.
Okay.
I don't think they I as much as the win helps, as much as the win over New Hampshire helps, I don't think this team is going to be in the position to win this game on the road. So I have this as a loss.
So I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think that, after the season UConn had last year, they were 9-4. They had a great year. I think that they do take a step back a little bit, but they've got a big tight end that people are really excited to have. Now, I think what could help UConn out a little bit, or could help Ball State out a little bit, is UConn starts with Central Connecticut. Then they got Syracuse on the road. Then they travel to Delaware. UConn's already played a home game against Central Connecticut, so there's not going to be that first home game excitement. I don't know how much that helps Ball State, but I think that might help them a little bit. But I think ultimately this one, Ball State probably falls in this one.
Yeah, Ball State definitely can win at UConn. I just don't think they will. This one, following week, we get to host Ohio in Muncie. So, and I think this is the season for me. If Ball State can win this one, if they can take down the Bobcats, I think this is a Ball State team who maybe the rest of the year they kind of run the table in the conference and they show up, make a surprising appearance in the MAC title game.
Wow,
that's I really do think
wow.
that's what this is. I think this is an indicator here. That being said, I don't have them winning this game. If they do win this game, I think this is an indicator that this Ball State team is for real. I don't have them winning this game. I think this is a loss at home for Ball State, a tough loss. But despite the coaching change at Ohio, I don't expect that Bobcat team to be really any less than they were last year.
Graham's hot take: if they win this game, they could sneak into the MAC championship. I love it. I love that. That's almost as bold as my Kent State makes the Florida State game competitive take. No, I think you're right. I think Ohio wins this one. Yes, it is in Muncie. But Ohio's they're out looking to defend their title. They're coming off of a tough non-conference schedule. Finally get a chance to breathe against a MAC opponent. I like Ohio in this one just to kind of kick off conference play.
Following week, back on the road, although not quite as far as UConn, traveling to Kalamazoo, a place that I thought only existed in Dr. Seuss books when I was a kid, going up against Western Michigan. I think this one, for me, I got Ball State winning this one. I think this is gonna be a close game.
Okay.
But I think they get tired of the losses, back-to-back losses to UConn and OU, puts them in a winning mood. They go into Kalamazoo and they take a close one from the Broncos.
Wow. Okay. So you've got the Broncos falling in this one. I think that's an interesting take. I've got the Broncos winning at home. Lance Taylor doing a great job trying to get Western Michigan back on track, back to their days of glory, if you will. And I think this is, Ball State starts conference play 0-2. That's what I got right now.
Woof. That's tough for the Cardinals. Following week, they get to host the Akron Zips. We talked about this one last time. And my pick remains the same. I think Ball State takes down the Zips. They handle them at home, and for me, this is Ball State's third win of the season.
Wow. This is Ball State's second win of the season for me. They do take down the Zips at home. But I think the game that I've got circled most on my calendar, and if you're a Ball State fan, you might have this one circled, the game against Northern Illinois, your last road trip to DeKalb, Illinois, with the Huskies as a conference opponent. It's a Saturday game, October 25th. You've won the last three in the Battle of the Bronze Stalk. Ball State, not happy Northern Illinois is leaving the conference. I'm giving Ball State the win. They shouldn't have won how many of the last several. I like them winning 4 in a row and keeping that thing here in MAC country.
Wow. See, that's a bold pick for me. Now, I do think there's a chance that Northern Illinois is kind of on autopilot this season as they wait for that move to the Mountain West. But I still think that Northern Illinois takes this one at home. I have this one as a loss for Ball State.
We both have 3 wins for the Cardinals, and I think we have 4 wins here with this next game. It's Kent State. It's in Muncie. That feels like a win to me.
Yeah, Kent State has been so disappointing for the past few years that I've gone ahead and just chalked up losses in every single game for them going forward. 4 or 5 seasons in advance. But this is I've got this as a win for Ball State.
I like it. I think this is where we get into some interesting stuff. Eastern Michigan feels like a 50-50 game to me. I think you flip a coin, and when I flipped my coin, it said heads, and heads is the home team, and so I'm going Ball State in this one.
Love that. When I flipped my coins, it was tails, and on the back side of my coins are Eagles, so I'm going with the Eagles. Eastern Michigan wins this one.
Love it. And then the last 2 games of the season, at Toledo, at Miami, I think you lose both of these games. I think, Toledo just going to be too strong this year offensively and defensively. But then Miami as well. You've got DeQuan Finn starting at quarterback for the Redhawks. You're playing 2 tough road games against 2 MAC contenders. Ball State competitive.
And 2 teams who I think are going to be fighting for a MAC championship appearance in Toledo and Miami. So, yeah, I think these games are going to mean something to both the Rockets and the Redhawks at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think you're going to get anything less than these teams' best. So at Toledo, at Miami, agreed. 2 losses for the Cardinals.
Well, there you guys have it. Let us know what you think. I'm excited for this season for Ball State. I think that there's an opportunity for them to have something a little bit special, but I'm cautiously optimistic. It's going to depend on what this offensive line does, and it's what this defensive backfield can do. I think this is a Ball State team with a lot of talent, but right now you're building for the future.
That's exactly the case. Plenty of question marks. I think that means there's going to be some interesting storylines for the Cardinals this year. I don't know if those interesting storylines translate to wins, but I do think this will be a fun season for Ball State fans regardless. Learn a little bit of something about what this team looks like going forward into the Mike Uremovich era.
I love it. Welcome to Maction, Coach Uremovich. Glad to have you here, and glad to have you here, our dear listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in this week as we bring you the Ball State Cardinals 2025 football season preview. This has been a lot of fun. I love doing these season previews, getting you guys geared up for the season, letting you know our lukewarm to ice cold takes on how we think the season is going to go. If you enjoyed the show, please share it out. Share it out to your Ball State fans and say, hey, listen to these guys, and let them tell us how bad we are. But if you think that we did a good job, share it out with the Ball State fans who will agree with us. Either way, share it out with your friends. We appreciate the love and support. Check us out on all of our socials. You can follow us on Blue Sky at the MSC Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at the MSC Podcast, on TikTok at the MSC Podcast, on YouTube at MSC Podcast, and if you are 45 and older, on Facebook at the Max Sports Connection. We appreciate the love and support. Thank you guys so much. Please hit like, subscribe, leave a review. We might do one of these episodes one of these days where we read your reviews over the last year. So leave us a good one. We'd appreciate it. And who knows, you might make it on air as Graham and I do the read the mean tweets via your comments. So just let us know. Graham, anything else you have before we bounce out of here?
No way. Go Maction, and exciting. Keep listening as we continue these football previews. As Mac football gets closer and closer, I know all of you are singing your alma mater's fight songs just like I am in the shower every morning. So get those shampoo bottles right up to your mouth so they pick up all of your beautiful vocal stylings, and get excited for some Mac football.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week when we preview the Bowling Green Falcons. Thanks for tuning in.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.